Welcome to my digital diary. Herpes saved my life. Yes, you heard me correctly. There have been so many emotions and ups and downs that I've experienced since having it. I've been depressed, angry, and numb about knowing my prognosis. There's so much going on in the world right now and in the industries, so I figured I could share my authentic story and experiences as a woman who lives with this. I'm here to say that I am a real person who chooses to not disclose her actual face or voice. These are my real experiences and emotions. I decided to start this page anonymously as a way to cope and vent and be a comforting space for someone else who might be in my predicament. It's sort of like my digital diary, if you will, so thank you for listening and being here and subscribing. Feel free to ask questions or just to listen. You don't even have to engage if you don't want to, but just watch it. I'm sure it would probably help out so many people who are dealing with this in the dark, the same way as I am or as I have. So let's get into it. I found out when I was rather young, about 18 or 19. I'm a woman in her mid-30s right now, so I've been dealing with this for half my life. When I found out I contracted the virus, I was absolutely wrecked. When I first had my first ever flare-up, and it was very, very bad. I remember the extreme pain I was in. Before the actual lesions or blisters showed, I remember my lymph nodes near my genitals were super swollen, and I was like, okay, that's different. So when the lesions finally happened, they were scattered all over my vagina, the outer and inner labia, lips, everything. You ever had a canker sore? Or do you know what those little sores look like? Imagine mini canker sores all over your vagina. I'm talking about the clitoris, the hood, like I said, the outer and inner lips, everywhere. And it was painful and swollen and tender to the touch. It was like this for about 4 to 5 days in this state, and as it began to subside, it was crusting over. I guess this is the point when the blister is healing and receding, if you will. Even at this state, it was still painful and tender, but not as bad as when the blisters were ripe. So what did I do? I went to the doctor and was told that I have HSV2, and that totally devastated me. They assured me that so many people were like me, and it wasn't the end of the world, and that I did the right thing by taking the initial steps to get treatment. All I heard was, your life is over, you're unlovable, you'll never be able to have a relationship or a casual sex, or just be a fun young person ever in life. I took my antivirals and pamphlets and whatever else they gave and just went home and became a zombie for like 8 months. And when I say zombie, I mean I went on an extreme autopilot. I didn't know who to turn to, and I knew that this was not something I wanted to confide with to anyone. Till this day, I've never even officially told my mom, sister, anyone remotely close to me. So now I'm sure you are wondering who even gave this to me. For years, I have trauma blocked this out. Hear me out. I have muddled that memory so deeply in my head, that I literally couldn't remember how I got it, just that I had it. And I remember seeing an article years later that showed that memory loss is a form of trauma. So for years, I just didn't even want to think about the situation or anything remotely connected to that experience. Eventually, I started doing my shadow work and inner healing and decided that I wouldn't let this keep me afraid of myself. I wouldn't let it keep me in a box or in a hole or whatever things inside of my head that kept me from growing as a person. So this leads me to, how did I get this in the first place? I was being promiscuous and wanting to feel like I wasn't being left behind as far as what my friends were doing. So I had let this guy give me oral, and that was it. Remember, I was so young, and I had lost my V card a couple months prior at this point. So I wanted to feel like I was getting experience with guys. Silly stuff now that I look back on it. So, yeah, I let this guy give me oral. We didn't have actual sex or anything, and that was that. I don't even remember how I met him or how I connected with him. And it probably could have been off of AOL, AIM, MySpace, something like that. Because remember, I aged myself. So that goes without saying. I didn't know how to contact him and didn't want to question him about it because I was so young and inexperienced with dealing with men, and I was so mortified that this even happened to me. I just felt like the whole world and my social circle would find out. I didn't want the shame of my parents or siblings, so I just ate that. And that's when a couple days or weeks later, probably days later at this point, I had my first ever outbreak, and it was the worst one as well. Looking back in retrospect, I can say that from dealing with all of these years, the first outbreak really is the worst one, and you rarely have one as bad as that one ever again. When I would first get outbreaks, they would really come randomly. They are definitely linked to your moods and your cycle as a woman. As I've gotten older and more educated on the virus, I have been able to manage it better. I hardly get outbreaks anymore, but if I do, they are definitely always around the time of my cycle. Okay, I feel like this is becoming a lot, and I am becoming overwhelmed going down memory lane, but let me know if you'd like to hear more of my experiences, coping mechanisms, products that I've used aside from prescription meds that have helped me with managing this virus. I guess we'll chat later. Thanks for stopping by.